right, number 11, my last one. We got 11 and 12 here, people. Let's do this, okay? Find a polynomial in standard form that has the following zeros: -1, 3, and 5i. So I have x equals -1, so that is x plus 1. I have x equals 3, opposite x minus 3. So I have x equals positive 5i. So remember, imaginary numbers always come in pairs. They always come in pairs. Why? Because when I take the square root, to get an imaginary number, I need to take the square root of a number. Okay, why? Because I is the square root of -1. So that means I was solving at one point. Well, look, if we look at this, I just made up an example here. I have x squared equals -9, so I would square root both sides. Well, I would get, not negative, oh yeah, -9, plus or minus 3i. Well, I have 5i here, which means I also need to include -5i. Okay, because whenever you solve, and you get an imaginary answer, there's always and I don't like to use the word always. There's always going to be a plus or minus when solving. Okay, so that means I have x minus 5i, x plus 5i. Fun stuff. FOIL. X squared minus 3x plus 1x minus 3, which becomes x squared minus 2x minus 3. If I multiply my i's, I get x squared plus 5ix minus 5ix minus 25i squared. These, you'll notice, will cancel out. So it's just that, so it's x squared. Now remember that I squared is -1. So this becomes no more I squared, positive 25. Because I squared equals -1, -25 times I squared is -20, oh, buckets. Oh, yeah, like that. You see, are you kidding me? Wow. They're just looking at me like I'm crazy. Seriously, everyone in this department thinks I'm nuts. That's okay. Times -1. Okay, that's where I got that positive 25. Alright. Here we go. Let's do some double distributing. I have a trinomial times a binomial, which means I want everything in my trinomial to multiply to everything in my binomial. So I'm going to go like this: x times x, or x squared times x squared gives me x to the 4th. X squared times -2 gives me -2. X cubed. X squared times -3 gives me -3x squared. Next, I'm going to do the 25 to everything as well. Boom, boom, boom. 25 times x squared gives me positive 25x squared. 25 times -2x gives me -50x. 25 times -3 gives me -75. Again, I like to write it like this because my like terms are aligned. So my final answer, f of x equals, this will go in your line over here, x to the 4th minus 2x cubed -3 and 25 plus 22x squared minus 50 x minus 75. Alright, here we go. Last one. Alright, a triangle. In triangle DEF, angle D is 30 degrees. Little f is 16 inches and D is 10 inches. So I have a side-side angle, which is the ambiguous case, all right, which tells me I could potentially have two triangles. Okay, so I'm going to solve for f. All right, this tells me if it's a side-side angle that I need to use the law of sines. Okay, how do I know that? Well, D is 30, right? Solving the triangle means solve for all missing sides and angles. Well, sine of 30 over 10 equals the sine of f over 16. When we have sides across from angles, a lot of times we're going to use our law of sines. But you know, cross multiply, all right? You know, 10 times the sine of angle F equals 16 times the sine of 30. Divide by 10. Divide by 10. Let's see what I get here. Okay, and then I'm going to have, remember, to find F, I need to do the sine, the inverse trig operation of all of this stuff. I don't know what the actual number is. I forgot to write that down. I apologize. But I'm going to, it's going to be a decimal. Okay. It should get a decimal. And I really don't know what it is off the top of my head. Let me pause it and figure it out for you. I end up taking the sine inverse of 0.8. So F is 53.13 degrees. That means E, which is going to be 180 minus 53.13 minus 30 is 96.87. Okay. I realize now I'm going to have to find another triangle, but I also have to find my side E. Okay. I also have to find E as well. I'm going to circle back to that in just a minute. Okay. Before I talk about, while I talk about F prime. All right. F prime is going to be 180 minus 53.13, which gives me 126.87 degrees. All right, does this work? Well, if I add 30 to that, I'll get 156.87. Okay, so that would give me an E prime of 23.13 degrees. So yes, both of these answers make sense. So there does exist a second triangle. Okay, I'm going to circle back. All right, remember, how do I know if it does not exist? Well, if the sum of angle D and whatever F prime was is greater than 180 degrees. Okay, that's how we know. All right, I'm going to solve for E over here. Here we go, the little E. So I'll do the sine. I'm going to use D again, the sine of 30 over 10 equals the sine of 96.87 all over E. Cross multiply. Sine of 30 times E equals 10 times the sine of 96.87. I'm sorry how messy this is. It's just a little stylus. It gets messed up sometimes. Alright, so I'm going to divide, as you can tell by my frustrations, both sides by the sine of 30 and get E to equal 19.86. Now be careful when you plug this in your calculator about the order you plug these in. Alright, do the top, hit equals, and then divide it by 10. Or excuse me, divide it by the sine of 30. There was F as well. Of course, why would it circle nicely? So I'm just going to stop that. Why waste my time here? Here we go. Let's find E prime. All right, so I'm going to do the sine of 23.13. Like, that is unreal. Right, so again, sorry about that. I have the sine of 23 over my E prime equals the sine of 30 over 10. I'm using angle D again because I don't like using the sine of 53.13. Okay. As I keep going, I cross multiply. I have the sine of 30 times E prime equals 10 times the sine of 23.3. When I get E prime by itself, so I divide both sides by the sine of 30. Okay, remember, do this in your calculator in order. 10 times the sine of 23.3. Divide equals and divided by the sine of 30, and I got E to be 7.86. That is all for me. Have a great day. Happy studying.